So I went to see this movie, The Mule, the other day. My mom wanted to go to the movies, so we went. She kind of picked the movie, and I didn't know at all that this was this new movie with Clint Eastwood. Um, like until like really after I saw the movie, I thought it might be like this old movie with Clint Eastwood that they brought back or something, but it turns out it was actually a new movie. So if there was a joke, the joke was kind of on me with this. Um, and it turned out the movie was a pretty good movie. There was a few people there, like, and I guess that kind of gave it away that it was a new movie because there's quite a few people showing up. It wasn't packed, but there was people there, and there was like young people there, and there was quite a few old people there too. I thought there would be more people. Thinking back now, like more old people that okay, they're like Clint Eastwood's in this movie, we gotta go see it. But there wasn't that many like of old people there. I was surprised, but there were like some old couples there. And then what I was really surprised about is we had like these like three kids come up like in front of us, and they sat in these chairs right in front of us, and these kids were like really young. This didn't look like a kid movie at all, and I didn't really know what the Mule was about, but I was pretty sure it wasn't a kid movie. And somehow these kids got in there, and they were there to watch this movie. I was like, well, shouldn't they be like watching Spider-Man or something? Like the Mule does not sound like a fun kid movie to watch. To me, like if I was young, I don't know if I'd want to watch the Mule. I don't know how they got in there. What happened, if they're sneaking around the movies, or how they even got past the person at the front to get in there. And then it turns out I just looked back, and yeah, that movie was not a kid movie. And the movies, I was like, okay, this has to be like an R movie. Of course, there turned out to be like R-rated scenes in it, and then I look back now, and it was an R-rated movie, and these kids were watching these like naked scenes in there. So that was interesting. But as for the movie, I mean, Clint Eastwood's in it. He knows a lot about making movies, so you have to think that it should be a good movie. One thing you're gonna notice right away is that Clint Eastwood's really old. I think this might actually be the movie I saw like the oldest actor in like a main role. There's not many other movies where I saw that old actors in the main role. He's 88 years old, actually, looking back at it, and it's amazing to see him acting in the movie. Some would say like maybe he's in good shape, but to me he looks like he's really fragile. But like I said, he still amazes me with his acting. You gotta give it to him. Like he might have been able to like retire like 20 years ago. He didn't. He's still acting, and he's still making movies, which is a huge deal. And one thing is, right away you're gonna notice he's not gonna be able to do as much because he's really old. He has to worry about his health. He can't get in any like huge fight scenes like in James Bond or anything, where they're throwing each other, say, off like trains or planes or something. No, that can't happen with Clint Eastwood. He could end up like in a hospital or something if he does that. So then it ends up that he's mainly talking in the movie. He does do some lifting. I think he lifts like pecans or something like that in the movie. I don't want to give it away if you didn't see the movie, but I hope that's not too big of a giveaway if you didn't see the movie. But Clint's like working on movies like in general, which is surprising, and he's doing a lot of directing. I think like he directed that American Sniper that he put out like 4 years ago in 2014, and then he had this other movie that he put out this year. But now this Mule is actually his first acting in like this big role in 6 years since a movie in 2012. So it was it's really a big deal for him to step into an acting role again and be on the screen instead of working behind the screen. And he's behind the screen with this movie. He's directing, and I think he did producing on the movie. So he really did a lot on this. And this movie's kind of like, what I found is it's kind of made for him, because the movie's about this old guy who runs out of this money, and he has to drive drugs around in Texas to make money. And it happens where old people run out of money and they have to do this. So it felt like an interesting story for him. And he actually, by coming in this role, he meets the age limit, and he does a really good job showing what it's like. It's really his type of role, and the whole movie is based off this article, which I'm going to talk about in a minute here. This article in the New York Times, and actually I'm going to talk about it right now. It's just in 2011. There was this DEA agent that kind of arrested this 87-year-old guy named Leo Sharp. And this guy, Sam Dolnick, at the New York Times interviewed him, and he called the article he wrote about him the Sinaloa Cartel's 9-year-old drug mule. Now you can think just an article, Sinaloa Cartel's 9-year-old drug mule, that's like I have to click. I think it became quite a popular article. Somehow someone from his production company saw it. It was this Imperative Entertainment was the name of the production company. They sold it. The New York Times sold it to this production company in 2014. It's not really clear who got the money for this article. It was the New York Times that published it, but maybe the guy who wrote it got some of the money too. That would be interesting. But then what happened was this Imperative Entertainment they tried to get it made in 2015, but I guess it didn't work out, and then they eventually ended up bringing on Clint Eastwood now for 2018, and then at the same time they got on Bradley Cooper too. And the story was actually, I found, really original. Never heard of this before, where you had these old people having to run and drive around drugs. But it really makes sense, like I said, because there's a lot of old people going broke right now and in history, and they have to. But there's a lot of old people now living to an older age, and sometimes they don't have the money to sustain themselves, and then they end up where they have to struggle to kind of make the ends meet. And I give like the movie points for kind of that original story, and I think that's what really pushed the movie to be made was the whole story behind it, and there was a few lines in the movie that were kind of amusing, but because you have this old guy and he's being pushed around by young guys, so anytime you have something like that, you can work with it comedy wise, and you had Clint Eastwood too. It doesn't look like he really cares anymore, and he does some funny things in the movie, and the directing was really well done too. With Clint Eastwood did a good job, and the way the movie was made too, you could tell it was a pro making it, and you can probably learn a few things just from watching the movie from what Clint Eastwood did. And a lot of the parts really though in the movie, to kind of talk about it a bit more, a lot of the parts didn't really make you care that much. It seems like making the movie, they kind of missed out on making the movie really funny. There's only a few times where there's a couple funny parts here and there, but it could have been really funny, everybody laughing in the theater funny. But it was only just a few people that laughed at certain parts, at different parts in the movie, which was interesting. You didn't have everyone laughing at one part. And I found the story was kind of boring too. Like, it's an original story, but it was kind of boring. This movie doesn't really seem to know what kind of movie it's trying to be, whether it's trying to be a comedy or whether it's trying to be a drama. And it kind of doesn't really take hold in one of those categories. And what's gonna happen in the movie? Well, if this old guy's running drugs, you can make some pretty good guesses of what's gonna happen. And then you have Bradley Cooper in this, who was okay, but his character was really light, and he really didn't do that much. I think he had a main role, but it didn't seem like there was anything original he was doing. Like, it seems like anyone could have played that role. And then you could see kind of holes in the script. The story wasn't written that well. A lot of the characters didn't have that much character. So in the end, if you don't think too much in this movie, you can enjoy it and it's a good movie. I'm going to give it points, like I said, for Clint Eastwood being in it. He's 88. That's got to be like a record somewhere in the books for a movie. And you have to really give it to him for still working at the age he's at. Like, how many others are still working and still doing acting at 88 and still making movies. And if it was anyone else, this might have been a really bad movie. But since it's Clint Eastwood, it's okay, and it's really watchable. So subscribe for more reviews and other things, and that's gonna be it.